smartest guys in the room. We're back. You got married, and I had to go watch March Madness. So, hey, it is what it is. We're back after life has changed. So, is everything all different for you now, Tom?
Yes and no. Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to change some settings here real fast.
Okay.
So let me just get dialed in for a second, and I will
just
answer
talk.
all your questions. I promise.
All right, I'll talk and talk and talk. One of the things that I wanted to talk about today, we get into this sometimes: failures, setback, obstacles, and you can call them whatever you want, but using those things to make yourself better. And I could go over 1,000 things that were setbacks, obstacles, failures, whatever you want to call them. But I used that as a stepping stone, used it as an opportunity, used it as a learning experience, whether that's when you make your first video and you did this, or holding a camera, a landscape instead of, what's the other way? I don't even know. What's but holding it one way versus the other way. Oh, well, this looks weird. Writing a book and thinking you're good enough to edit it yourself. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. But these things that you learn along the way, oh, customers that treat you bad, oh, maybe I don't want to deal with them again. Things in your contracts that weren't good enough that maybe you got burned on, and now you go back in and say, I'm going to fix that up. What things can you take and use as an opportunity?
All right, let me see if we got you. Can you hear me? Go ahead and talk for me, Don.
I hear you clear, brother.
All right, there we go. Now we got all the audio settings. For some reason, like some of the apps updated and everything changed. So I had to go through. I apologize. I had to go through and like reset everything on like both the Restream side and on the Club Deck side. Everything was changed. So sorry about that. Just took me a minute because it's a little persnickety. You got to make sure everything's flowing the right way, or otherwise you get crazy feedback and weird stuff happening. So now I'll answer all your questions. What do you want to know about the wedding?
Well, I think first we got to start with the wedding. This guy, Tom, got married over the weekend. Really, Friday. St. Patrick's Day was Friday, so you got married on St. Patrick's Day. I saw the picture of you on the merry-go-round. What a great picture, man. I mean, you guys look so happy and stuff like that. So I think first we ought to tackle getting married over the weekend.
Yeah. So Becky and I, after 10 years, finally made it official and got married over the weekend. We got married on St. Patrick's Day. That was a deliberate choice. We were kind of trying to figure out what day we were going to do it, when we were going to do it, etc. And if you're watching the live stream, I'm just looking away because I'm pinging folks into the room here. But anyway, we decided to do it on St. Patrick's Day because we figured that way we could never forget our anniversary. Makes it really easy to remember. When's your anniversary? It's St. Patrick's Day. It's March 17th. It's the same day every year. And also gives us an excuse to go out and have some fun on St. Patrick's Day every year. So we made that deliberate choice. And we're not super traditional folks. So obviously, after 10 years, we finally got married. People were asking, how I proposed. The truth is, I didn't really. We had a conversation and sort of mutually decided that we should go ahead and get married. So there was no fairy tale proposal down on one knee. It never happened. We just had a conversation and decided that we should probably go ahead and get married. So it was so there's a state park near us called Bear Mountain. At Bear Mountain, there's a historic inn on the property that was built in, I believe, 1915, somewhere around there. So it's a little over 100 years old. And about 100 yards away from the inn, in 2000, they built a carousel house. So there's an indoor carousel. The carousel is not an antique, but it looks like one. It's that 1915, 1920s carousel with all the individual light bulbs and all the sort of hand carved like wooden animals on it and whatever. All the animals on the carousel are indigenous to the local region, if not the actual park itself. And so, we decided to get married there. It was super fun because they have the carousel running the whole time. So like you can get on and there's somebody there to operate it. You just get on, tell them you want to go for a spin, and they spin it up. And instead of doing a first dance, we did a first carousel ride. And the song we chose for our first dance was Lizzo's "About Damn Time." Because we wanted to kind of set the tone early that we weren't taking ourselves or the event too seriously, and that we were there to have fun, and that's what we wanted everybody else to do as well. So that was what we did on Friday.
So does everybody else get on the carousel during that first dance? Are you like, hey, everybody get up on the carousel while we're on the carousel?
Yeah, so we did a couple of spins of the carousel, and then they stopped it, and then we invited everybody to get on, and so everybody got on. I think the DJ ended up playing the song like twice because it took a long time to get everybody on the carousel. People were like confused. I was like kind of like walking around like telling people, get up, come on, let's go, get on. So there was some confusion at first, but yeah, it was tons of fun. It was tons of fun. It was unique. It was different. We set out. I talked about this yesterday, actually, in a meeting, and just talked about kind of how setting expectations and managing expectations can lead to really good outcomes. And so, right from the start, having a wedding at the carousel, not having it be a stuffy thing. We took everybody right after the ceremony. The entire wedding went outside for a big group picture with everybody in it. So, we kind of set the tone early on that we were there to have fun, and that we were not going to take things too seriously. We didn't do the litany. We didn't do 14 first dances. We didn't do 86 toasts, where everybody just has to kind of sit and listen for like an hour of like program. And we also didn't do a seating chart, which was funny because people pushed back on that beforehand. A lot of people pushed back and they were like, no, you got to do it. You got to do even the woman from the venue was like, I don't know. It doesn't always go well. We were like, nope, absolutely not. We refuse to do a seating chart. And guess what? It worked out great. We got zero complaints about where people sat because we were like, you're all adults. You can choose where you sit, with whom you sit. You're all adults. You can handle it. But yeah, just setting expectations that it was all about having fun and enjoying the moment really meant that, we ended up with people at the end of the night and even afterwards telling us that it was the most fun they've ever had at a wedding. So mission accomplished. Plus, the actual, the actual wedding, right? That part was accomplished as well. And super cool side note there is my dad's a retired judge. And so he's still able to do weddings in New York State. And so he actually officiated the ceremony, which was pretty cool. So my dad actually officiated. He was the one who declared us husband and wife, and by the power vested in him by the state of New York. But yeah, so it was pretty fun.
Well, congratulations, sir. And the pictures are great. You guys look young and strapping and in love. So now this is a business question. I got to ask you about this. So the carousel, bear with me. The carousel, did everything move up and down?
Almost every. I think there was one. So there were like two things that were like two-seaters. So there was one that was like a handicap like bench thing, and then there was another one that's a swan that was like had a little bench in it. So it didn't move up and down. And then there was one animal, I think, that didn't move up and down, but everything else moved up and down.
You know why I asked that in this room, not the smartest guys in the room. Do you know that? Where I'm going?
No.
Okay.
But I'm not the smartest guy, so.
Yeah, fair. So when Walt Disney started Disney World, Disneyland, one of the things that he said was he had been to some parks with or whatever with carousels. And when he got on the carousel, when he went back to the back, the horses' noses were falling off. Some of them didn't move up and down more than you're saying. Like the whole inside rows don't move up and down. And he wanted to create a place where everything moved up and down there, where there was no back corner, where it was dungy and dirty and things like that. And it was all beautiful. And that was the basis behind Disneyland. Okay, there's magic even the people sweeping up the garbage are like dancing and they get it done real quick. So, okay. So not the smartest guys in the room. Tom got married. Last week we were out. Okay, full disclosure here. I was at some of the early rounds of March Madness, and I was eating. I'm a fried chicken connoisseur. I don't know if I've ever told you guys that. I'm sure I do talk about fried chicken a lot, but found a place at like 2:45 in the morning in Dayton, Ohio, in a beer distributor that had the beer distributor. It was open till 5:30. At 2:45 in the morning, they had a fried chicken restaurant in the beer distributor, in the drive-thru beer. It was called like Mr. Crispies or Mr. Crispers. Now that is a business model that I like. So Mr. Crispers was good stuff, had a little bit of spice to it, and left me feeling good and something to talk about. Okay, so now let's get going. Mr. Swift, you're flashing. What do you want to add? Then we're gonna get into something here. Go on, my friend.
I want to congratulate Tom on getting married, and it sounded like it was a unique and lovely occasion. So congrats, Tom.
Thanks very much, Brian. Appreciate that.
There you go, Tom. People like your marriage more than my fried chicken. That's the facts.
Not true.
There we go.
I love Tom. I have to jump in. Congratulations, Tom. And I saw pictures with you without your hat on. I'm like, that's what he looks like without the hat on. But it was amazing. Your wife is beautiful and you look so happy. So many blessings.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks very much. Appreciate that.
I thought the same thing.
I do. The top of my head exists. I am bald. I've been bald for years. I don't wear the hat to hide it. The hat is more of a branding thing than to hide my baldness. I actually didn't wear hats for a long time, and then started doing it, and now it's become kind of a thing. And I've painted myself into a corner, so to speak. But yeah, I'm bald. I have the top of my head exists. And if you want to see it, just go to my Facebook page or my Instagram and you can see me, in all my baldness on my wedding day, riding a bear on a carousel.
You look great. Wouldn't it be great if he had like the coolest flat top under there or something like that? Just the most unexpected hair like that you ever thought he could have. So not the smartest guys in the room. We weren't here last week, but we're going to keep this ship rolling. One of the things that where we were going to go today, this is what I got on the agenda, and we'll end up talking about pies or something like that. But where I wanted to go, setback, failure, rejection, anything you want to call it, you can go from, I started saying earlier, like it could be that you made a video and held the camera the wrong way. It could be that you wrote a book and tried to edit it yourself. Anything that you did that was probably an obstacle, setback that you want to share that you learned from. You took that and said, maybe I should hire an editor rather than me personally, I struggle with there are. So maybe I need an editor to help me. Or so what was the thing? So we'll get started with Prof T and Brian, and then we'll just start this dialogue like that. So Prof T, if you're game to play something at one point, it could have been when you were 20, it could be when you were 12, it could have been a week ago, whatever, something. And we might be doing the same thing right now. And we're like, well, Prof T figured it out like this. Why don't we try that? So what do you got for us, Prof T?
Good morning, everybody. How are you? Missed y'all last week. Tom, congratulations. I'm just having this fabulous visual of the carousel and you guys just having a good time. Hey, listen, you guys had me at carousel and fried chicken. So I just want to say kudos. I love fried chicken. I love weddings, and I'm so happy for you. Congratulations. My best to you and your bride. Hi, everybody. Hello, my friends. I'm going to have to go with, I would have to say just most recently with social media and branding. It's not as easy as people might think it is. So when I met Julie, of course, I got to give props to Julie Logan. She actually, we became friends, and then I hired her to do some branding for me, and she over-delivered. But this is what I learned. Make sure you know who you trust, because people like to do business with people they know, like, and trust, as we all know. And don't try to do something yourself if you really don't know how to do it, because for me, I'm game to try anything, and I'll land with this. I could probably have done it, but it would have taken me so long. And also, I tried to make a landing page, and then my beautiful Heather, hi Heather, with the beautiful sunglasses on, we met for lunch in the area where I live. She's in Delaware, and I'm right across the border. So we met for lunch, and she said, "Hey, let me help you," and she did. So don't try to do stuff that you think you can do, because it will be, in the long run, it probably will be time consuming, and you end up just really delaying your success. So thank you. This is Prof T. Hello, everybody. And thank you again, Brian, for allowing me on your radio station. That was a great show. Thank you so much. Back to you, Tom and Dom.
Hey, Prof T, thank you very much. And it's interesting, like you talk about like bootstrapping. We can all bootstrap things. Like there's times where we have to decide, is this something I can do on my own? Or is this something maybe I want to get into? Or is this something I can do better? Maybe I can cut my grass. I had other people cut my grass. I think I cut my grass, well, now that my kids do it, but I think I cut my grass better and faster, and it looks nicer. So I don't mind doing it. And I listen to the radio or a podcast or something like that. But what is that thing that takes you time and you can't do it as good? And you're like, well, I'm never going to get to where I want to go, or I'm not going to get there fast enough if I keep screwing around with something that I'm not good at. So you all of a sudden got yourself resources like Heather and Julie, and it propelled you. Can you get there faster than you could on your own? So great point. Mr. Swift, something, obstacle, setback, something you learned from that maybe we could learn from. What do you got for us?
Well, it's probably along the same lines as Prof T. Back in college, I took a lot of courses that required a lot of writing. And with having hands that don't work as a quadriplegic, I could write, but it was tedious and took so much time. So I happened to have an aunt that was a secretary and was doing, back then, as they called, transcribing, which is basically recording and then taking that and typing it out. And she had offered, if I needed help, that she would transcribe. And I didn't accept it at first. And I don't remember why. I guess I was intent on really trying to just, write it out and get better at it. But it didn't take long before I said, yeah, let me give that a shot. And wow, what a difference maker it made by allowing her to just type up all my papers. Because after that, then law school came up, and you do tons of writing in law school. And that saved just an enormous amount of time. And to the other point, you can't do it yourself always. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I know sometimes our egos want to take us, and maybe it's more of a guy thing, and say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it myself. And I don't want to kind of owe anybody or be beholding. And I gave that philosophy up a long time ago. And I have relied on a lot of people here, Dom, you, and Tom, your wisdom, especially. I read your stuff on getting, getting into the movie end of the business and taking Dominick and my screenplay and how do we move that forward, and having guests on the show like Prof T and Julie that just make life much better when you surround with people. Because I think sometimes we forget, by allowing people to help you, that makes them feel good too. It makes them feel happy and like they have a little more of a purpose. And people genuinely do want to help, and not in a beholding way, not in this like, now you owe me a favor way. And it is good to have that feeling of helping somebody. So don't deny somebody that feeling of being a help to somebody else. I'm complete.
Well said, Mr. Swifty. Always good to have you around. That's my dear friend, Brian P. Swift. Make sure you follow him. Anybody in this room, make sure you connect left, connect right. Check out their Instagrams, watch one of their videos, see what they're up to. You may be completely amazed. There may be opportunities. There may be relationships like you, Heather and Prof T, where you can go have lunch together. Or maybe you meet up with somebody like Brian and he'll let you ride on his motorcycle with him like he did me. He rolls up into the sidecar. I was on the bike side. It's got these little straight handles. We're cruising around Chicago. So you never know what kind of opportunities. He's not the best driver. I will say, Brian, I just let's be clear on something. Brian, and he admitted the quadriplegic and things like that. Brian, with all that he can do, he's not the best driver. He drives like 100 miles per hour, whips around every corner. You know that, right, Brian?
You know what? I have never caused an accident. And yes, I have a heavy hand. I am an aggressive driver. So I am not, I am very aware, but a lot of people would say I drive a little aggressive, which I do, but I do always try to be safe. And even more safe on my bike, which I don't ride a ton, but especially when I have people on you, and you're one of the few that have dared to take a ride with me on my motorcycle. And I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah, you're right. So at one point, I was with Brian and we're in his van, and his son's in the very back of his van. I'm telling you, Brian's driving so fast that his son was rolling around in the back of the van. That's how he drives. Okay, that's not the smartest guys in the room. Feel free, if you guys ever want to ask a question, you got a lot of media experts up here, so never forget that that's what we do here. So if you want to ask Julie or Dr. Tachi something, or Heather, Prof T, feel free to ask away. But for right now, we're also talking about something, a setback, an obstacle, something that you learned from. Heather with the sunglasses on today. Heather, what do you got for us?
Hey, so congratulations, Tom, on your wedding. That is amazing. Carousels, actually kind of funny. My great uncle, who's a great uncle. Anyway, and I have the history on it. It's just at my mom's. He was the first carousel creator or maker to make animals other than horses on a carousel, which is super cool. I love that like little piece of information that, my mom's obsessed with carousel. She is like so obsessed. So I just love that you guys were talking about that. So congratulations on your wedding. Dom, fried chicken. I actually work for a fried chicken place called Letty's Kitchen. And we have a fried chicken eating contest every year on the 4th of July. This year will be the 4th year. So if you're in Delaware, come on over to Delaware and join in on the fried chicken eating contest happening on July 4th.
Road trip,
Dom. But something that I've learned, and I'm going to go on the personal side of things, is, to lean on people that want to help you. I'm very much like, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to do this by myself. Screw everybody else. I'm going to learn how to do it. I'm going to do it by myself. Well, I'm really good at like business and like, all that stuff. But like, I am currently going through, mediation with my ex-husband for a change in custody. And we're just trying to, because he has a new baby and a new family. He has like 5 kids now. It's insane. But he's also my abuser. And whenever we would talk, my heart would literally be beating out of my chest. I would get nauseous. I couldn't think because that trauma response, that physical trauma response, is still happening. And so, my husband is definitely helping me look at the numbers, look at the way that I should be like thinking about it, not getting into the trauma response and reverting back to what I went through and remembering that, but look at it for what it is: numbers, verbiage, very straightforward gray rock, right? Don't insert emotions. And yeah, it's hard to not insert emotion while your body is literally going through a physical trauma response. So just letting, like, people who want to help you, like, let them help you. My husband wanted to help me, so I'm like, okay, you know what, like, I will let you be the mediator for me at this point, and then we'll look at everything and then I'll confer with him. But like, just learning how to compartmentalize and be gray rock and be and just having help, because I could do everything by myself. I'm so stubborn. But this, I cannot do this by myself. So shout out to my husband, who is amazing. And thanks guys for letting me be me in this room and be a little bit vulnerable. Thanks guys, love y'all.
Thank you, Heather. How do you know when to ask for help? How do you know, like, let's say 100 things rolling on the other day, like nonprofit work, business, new customers coming in. How do I know we're working on getting Salesforce or something at the nonprofit I help out? And I told one of the guys, I said, I'm at my peak. I got no more, Bill. I got this going on, this going on, this going on. I need you, man. You roll. How do I know? And I felt so good saying that. So how do we know when it's time to say, hey, Bill, we need you? What do we do? That's for you first, Heather.
I mean, how do we, I think
you're at wit's end.
Yeah.
And how do I peep that out to Tom, I need you, Brian, I need you?
I think it's like when you get to that point of like, you can't, like, there's a wall, right? And you can't physically or mentally get past that wall. So you have to have a little bit of, what's the word? I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but you have to have a little bit of, like, what's the word? Humble. You have to be humble a little bit with yourself and be like, okay, like, obviously I can't do this by myself. Obviously I can't do this. And I need to be a little bit of I have to be humble here and know that I can't do this. I can't be like, I am the shit all the time and I can do this all the time. You have to be humble with yourself to let go a little bit. To receive that help, because I hate asking for help. I think it's when I was growing up, my parents were like, you could do this by yourself, and when I would ask for help I would get in trouble, or no, I don't have time to help you, and you would have to fix things, you would have to do things on your own. I'm 80s kid, I'm walking through the door by myself at like 11 o'clock making myself a snack and dinner, and my parents aren't even home. I learned how to like bootstrap and do everything by myself, but like, you have to be like, kind of look inward and be humble and be like, okay, like I know I can't do this. It's time to reach out.
I think I agree with you, Heather. I think what it comes down to is like, you have to remember that it takes strength to be vulnerable. right? It takes courage to be vulnerable. Being self-reliant or stubbornly overly self-reliant, right? And trying to do everything on your own is actually kind of taking the easy way out, right? Because it's hard to admit when you need help. It's hard to be vulnerable. It takes courage and strength to be vulnerable. And I think a lot of people forget that it does take that vulnerability is courage, that vulnerability is strength, that asking for help is actually a power move, right? And not a sign of weakness. And we forget that. I know I struggle with that too. And so I think you just have to remind yourself like that we all have limits, and the best thing you can do, the smartest thing you can do, the strongest thing you can do in a lot of instances is ask for help when you need it. Recognize you need help and ask for it rather than trying to do everything on your own. It's something I have trouble with as well. So I totally empathize with you about like that instinct to just do everything on your own, because I had the same very similar kind of experience growing up. I was the quote unquote latchkey kid, right? Would come home from school and let myself into the house and nobody else would be home, and, make myself a snack and even though I was supposed to start doing my homework, would actually, sit down and watch TV. But yeah, I think we just all have to remind ourselves and repeat and have that kind of floating around in the back of your head that, vulnerability is strength, and it takes courage to ask for help, and it's not a sign of weakness. No matter what, that your childhood brain is telling you, it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. So that's what I think.
Tom, I know you're wrapping up your book right now, but this you should clip this. You should reshare it. Asking for help is a power move. Tom Langan said, I mean, what a quote, man. You dropping that. That could be like blurb, back cover of the book right at the top. That's good stuff, man. So thank you for sharing. Look, you got all hearts. Asking for help is a power move.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is like, and I will take it. I'll take that. I said it out loud. You heard it from me just now. I doubt I said it first, but there's no such thing as an original idea, really. But that's okay. Innovation isn't about creating new things. It's about adaptation of existing things, right? But yeah, I mean, I think asking for help 100% is a power move. And I'm going to be asking for everyone's help here. As we get closer, the book's going to come out. My book's going to come out in September. And as we get closer, I'm absolutely going to be asking for this community's help in getting the word out about the book. I'm going to start doing workshops around the book. I want to build a movement. And the book is a sort of a linchpin component to building that movement to humanize the world of business and make all of our lives a little bit better, because we all interact with businesses on a daily basis. And I think if we teach businesses how to treat their customers like the human beings that we are, then it's going to be a better place, both for us as customers and consumers and communities around brands, but also for the brands themselves. If we can shift that dynamic of that relationship, we're all going to be a little bit happier. So I'm going to be making some power moves myself, asking for help in this community in the near future. So stay tuned, buckle up. It's coming. I promise.
All right. Well, I'm just going to reset. Not the smartest guys in the room. Brilliant stuff. All everybody that shared so far today. Thank you. I'm like taking notes like vigorously, thinking, oh, that's a good point. So now we're keeping rolling. One of the subjects, really main subject, is a mistake, a setback, an obstacle, a failure, whatever you want to call it. Something you went through. It could be like one time I used to set I worked in insurance for about 15 years, and I used to set an alarm on my phone that at 8:46, that was the time I really needed to be like all in on insurance. And until that time, I would write, I would do these other things, like all like my side stuff I was going on. So one time we're in a meeting in Harrisburg, like with managers and district managers and all kinds of stuff like that. And the meeting started at 8 o'clock, whatever. 8:46, the alarm goes off. Ding, 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 like snooze alarm, whatever it is. And everybody there is, oh, Dom, is this the time you usually get up? And all kinds of stuff. Like, it's so embarrassed. So I learned, turn that alarm off when I'm going to a meeting. But really, that was the time to drop all the other things I was working on and go out and hit it hard. So, Dr. Tachi, you have any experiences to share with us, something maybe you've done that we could learn from? What do you got for us, Dr. Tachi?
Hello, everyone. First of all, congrats, Tom. That was wonderful seeing the photo. And yeah, congrats. This is good news. So a couple of things, actually not a couple, because a couple is just two. So yesterday I was talking with, I was on a live stream and I mentioned this thing. They asked me how, I can't remember what the question was, but I said there's a saying that says, when you if you're so busy hanging with chickens, you can't soar with the eagles. So I think part of this whole thing is I'm prefacing it with hang around with eagles rather than chickens, because that helps in terms of or people who seek just low hanging fruit all the time. That helps with some of these things, like what I'm about to say now. Let people help you, and a lot of people have been saying that. But if you're surrounded by people who really can barely help themselves, they can't help you. So you have to make sure that you're around people that are equally yoked. And I don't necessarily mean just equally yoked in terms of money or any of that, that are going someplace and have the same vision in a sense that you do, and that can support in whatever way, the same way you support them. Also, I've learned that you can't want things for people more than they want it for themselves. I know sometimes, especially those of us who coach and teach, we so want for people to get it. We so want for people to be able to take the information and use it. Well, they can only do with it what they do with it. All you could do is put it out there. So you don't overexert yourself trying to get people to do what you think they should be doing, or how, because you can't want it more for them than you want it for themselves. Goes along with hanging with chickens. And then finally, set parameters for what the type of treatment you will accept, whether that's in relationships, business relationships, personal relationships, etc. I bring this up all the time, but getting paid. People will, obviously companies have ways that they do things. Many work on net 30, but some take advantage of net 30 and it becomes net 120, net 360. And you set the parameters for how you're treated in relationships, especially business relationships. So if you tell them, no, I'm sorry, this is when it's due, and if you can't do that, unfortunately, you'll have to go with someone else. As much as it may hurt you, we all need that business, but do you need business that is going to make you spend money because you haven't been paid? So those are three things I was thinking about as this question came up, and I rest the mic.
I got two things I want to add to Dr. Tachi there. First of all, thanks, Dr. Tachi, for the congratulations. Much appreciated. I think I'm going to say that about 100 times in this room today, but I appreciate everyone's congratulations very much. To what you were just saying, I think that there's a lot of value in, we renamed this room that we do every week, not the smartest guys in the room, right? Because the idea is that if you're the smartest person in a room that you go into, you're in the wrong room, right? And I think you can broaden that sentiment out and apply that, in terms of who you should be surrounding yourself with in your network, right? So you should always be looking to surround yourself with, as we were talking about the eagles, right? People that soar, surround yourself with people that are further along in their business journey than you, if you're an entrepreneur, or further along in their career path than you, if you're, working in a specific career path, right? Surround yourself with people that are a few steps ahead, so that you're working to try to catch up, right? So that you're sort of consistently inspired by the people around you, rather than making yourself the big fish in a small pond. Be the small fish, right? It's much more productive, much more inspiring to be the small fish in a big pond, it gives you something to work towards rather than being the big fish in the small pond, which I think probably tends to make you lazy, right? So be the small fish, give yourself something to strive towards, give yourself inspiration by surrounding yourself with people that are a few steps ahead, right? So that you can look at them and say, wow, that inspires me to do this, or, they did this and I can see how I can apply something similar to my business, right? So I think, yeah, be the small fish, right? Always better to be the small fish in the big pond than the big fish in the small pond. And I had something else I was going to say. I got myself distracted with the small fish, big fish thing that Dominick furiously wrote down. I saw him start taking notes. He loved that one. He loves it when I spit out little things like that. But anyway, yeah, I'll rest the mic. If it pops it back into my head, I will chime back in. But that's all I got for right now.
Can I add really quickly to what Tom said in terms of, for example, dance? That is so true across everything. But I noticed it in dance when I first moved to Fort Lauderdale. I'm coming out of DC and New York, which are bigger dance markets. And then I came to Fort Lauderdale, and they're very focused on kids dance. And the adult dance there is for like retired people and that type of thing. So I found a dance class that was for adults, but of course I was the youngest one there. And it's not about age, it's about skill level and what they wanted to do. They were just looking to kind of keep in South Florida shape and not really do anything. So the dance teacher would tell me, well, when they do 2 turns, you do 3. So I was surrounded by people who were like below my skill level dance wise. And I get pushed when I'm in a class that's super hard and I know I can't do that, but I can attempt to do it. So you're so right. And just noticing that in dance brings that to my mind. I rest the mic.
I'm loving this conversation. This is not the smartest guys in the room. We do this every Wednesday. So I'm a publisher by day, and sometimes I feel like that stories aren't always best told in book. Sometimes it could be podcast, sometimes it could be video, sometimes it could be movie screen. So as a business, I started to think that maybe some of these stories that we're publishing, maybe they could be screenplays, maybe they could be movies, So Pittsburgh has a growing movie scene right now. Tax credits crazy. There's always stuff going on. So I started taking any odd job on these movie sets, shows, things like that. Sometimes I took COVID tests twice a day just to get these opportunities to be on the set and look at the pink sheets, or I think that's what they call them, pink sheets, where they showing me like a little piece of the script and things like that. So, but really what I was doing there is just trying to learn. So at some point I'm driving a car backwards, but really I'm watching, man, they lay the tracks down like that. Or, they don't film like a TV show. They film with one camera at a time and then switch the angle and then reshoot the same thing 50 times. So I'm the smallest fish there, the smallest fish. I'm not even a fish. I'm a minnow, but I learn, I meet people. We start talking about publishing. Some of them I'm writing stuff with. Some of them have been in other videos I'm creating. Some of them are people we network with. Hey, maybe that little small fish keeps getting some scrod. You know what a scrod is? A scrod. People serve scrod at restaurants. I used to be in the restaurant business, and there's a thing called scrod. And scrod isn't cod. Scrod is a fish that feeds on the bottom. So I'm never a big eater of scrod because it's considered a bottom feeder, and he eats like all the worms that pass all the top fish down to the bottom. So don't order scrod at the restaurant. But in this case, hey, you're down at the bottom. You're working your way up. You're learning all these things that are going on that you may need to know along the way. So. And by the way, be the small fish. I think Tom needed that week off because he is coming out swinging today. I mean, he's got all these quotable things and stuff like that. So I'm impressed. I think maybe we might start doing this room every 2 weeks, and then we get top form Tom.
We call them PAs, not scrots.
Scrod.
He's saying PAs are the bottom feeders of the
There
but
you go.
they're the lowest on the totem pole for sure. But yeah, just so you know, Dom, scrod can be cod. But it's usually it's typically like it refers to like a small either cod, haddock, or other sort of similar whitefish. But it's just it's a smaller, like a juvenile version of one of those fish, typically. But it's not a species of fish into itself. It's just sort of a nomenclature that popped up. It's one of those things where, like, restaurants made it up. But I think, like, like Arctic char is a made up name for a species of fish that came out of the restaurant industry. That's not actually a species of fish. I think Arctic char are actually just sea bass from off the coast of South America, if I remember that correctly. But yeah, just I got all kinds of random stuff floating around in my head. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Hey, I got to say, guys, this is the best room today. That we're going from weddings to carousels to scrod to Tom's dropping quotes left and right. Great tips from everybody. So let's see if we can keep this going.
Well, I got along those lines. I got a poll or question for the room, if I can interject, Dom. And I say that as if I'm not going to just do it anyway. Obviously, I'm just going to do it anyway because that's me. But does anyone know what going for the golden ring or reaching for the golden ring means, or what that's in reference to?
I would imagine it has something to do with the Olympics.
It does not. That is a good guess, but it does not.
Lord of the Rings?
No, not the Lord of the Rings either.
The carousel, when you go for the ring, when you're grabbing it, when you're going around.
Sonic the Hedgehog?
Yeah, Joyce. I think
doesn't it have to do with the carousel? There should be a golden ring hanging on the outside, and if you're able to pull it off, didn't you win something?
Yeah, I think Joyce got it first. Was that right, Joyce? The brass ring.
Out to the vineyard every summer, and we did the ring. It was a big thing in my family, so yes, that is true.
Yeah. So sorry. So the brass ring. I couldn't even get the question right. I had no idea about this until somebody mentioned it a few days before the wedding. Somebody asked if the carousel had a brass ring, and Becky and I just kind of stood there and stared at them like, "What are you even talking about?" But grabbing the brass ring, you're going for a shot at the brass ring. Carousels apparently in the 1920s used to have, it was traditional, there would be a brass ring and you would reach for it. And whoever got the brass ring, whoever managed to grab the brass ring on the carousel as they went around, got a free ride. So that was the prize. If you grabbed the brass ring, or if you went for the brass ring, if you got it, you would get a free ride. So that's where that term comes from. If you ever hear somebody say like reaching for the brass ring, or they're going for the brass ring, or they're going for that brass ring, something like that, that's where that term comes from. It comes from carousel culture, I guess. I don't know what else to call it. Carny culture, carousel culture, I don't know, something like that.
Carny culture is so funny. So my neighbor across the street actually grew up as a carny, so I'm gonna ask him about that thing.
Yeah, I don't know if carny culture is I don't know if that's the correct term, but we'll go with it. It's alliteration, and who doesn't love alliteration?
Yeah, he called himself a carny. So.
Yeah, when I had a restaurant, I had a lady that was in the carnies, and she was a waitress, and all of a sudden she'd leave in the summer for 3 months every year because she was like traveling across country with the carnies. Marianne was the sweetest. Okay, she smoked like a chimney out back too. One time, listen to this. One time the service was so bad at my restaurant. I think it was her granddaughter worked there too. The service was so bad that they were out back smoking or whatever, that somebody went next door to Subway to get themselves a drink and then came back into the restaurant. So that's what we had going on.
I just want to throw in Sloan in the chat was asking if I'm Canadian, and that's why I didn't know about the brass ring. I'm not Canadian. I'm a native New Yorker. I've been to Canada lots of times. My parents actually have a piece of property up in Ontario. but born and raised in New York. So to answer your question,
I'm Canadian, but also just an idiot. That's why I don't know things.
yeah, but I just and nothing against Canadians, right? I spend time there every summer. I love our neighbors to the north. But I'm not Canadian, and I don't think that has anything to do with me not knowing about the brass ring. I think it's just because I'm not old enough, I want to say, even though I'm not a spring chicken by any stretch of the imagination. I'm 44.
Because you've never
but
been to Martha's Vineyard. You've never been to Martha's Vineyard. You would know if you got on the carousel.
I have not been to Martha's Vineyard. That is true. I've not been to Martha's Vineyard, but yeah, I'm not Canadian. In case there was any lingering.
Tom is not okay. We learned something new. Tom is not Canadian. All right, not the smartest guys in the room. We do this every Wednesday from about 9:30 to 11ish, unless something like Tom's wedding and March Madness comes up, then you might not see us. But we're sharing some tips on things. Times we have maybe dropped the ball, times we failed, a mistake we made, but we learned from it. And we want to share some of those times so that somebody else doesn't, maybe they're going down the same path and they can learn from your experience. So we're going to talk to Julie, then we're going to talk to Joyce. My thing says Julie, Joyce, Jess. So Julie, what do you got going on? What do you got for us?
I love that. Julie, Joyce, Jess. I mean, it couldn't be more poetic. And you guys had me at Carney's. So I regress in this conversation. Carney, I love myself some Carneys, just people watching. Like the one lady who was wearing like a mini skirt, and she had the tattoo around her upper thigh of a holster and a gun tattooed right on her upper thigh. I was like, this is good stuff here. But we're talking about, mistakes, that sort of thing. But I can't ignore what Dr. Tachi said, and Tom and Dom, the kind of bottom feeders, if you will. And I think we all have those situations or people we've connected with that you had that little tug at your heart or intuition that, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with this person, but I'm just going to go with it. And not listening to our intuition is huge. And understanding character and taking a step back and saying, do they actually have good character? Are they the same person in front of you as they are in front of another person? Or are they stirring the pot and talking about other people? Do they execute when they say they are? Or are you constantly having to pound them like, can you do this? Can you do that? Have you done this? But the consistency behind closed doors, that Jekyll and Hyde secret personality, is something I think we all need to look for. I've been subject to it on different occasions, and I kind of just went with the intuition saying, yeah, no, this person, they've got it, and putting your belief into something that's not actually there. So that would be my biggest lesson. Make sure you understand people's character, understand who you need to align with. But I mean, I would love to know if anyone else has dealt with people that you think is one person is really another person, because it's real, especially in business. Thank you. This is Julie, and I'm complete.
Thanks, Julie. Let's go to Brian and Heather. Go on.
Yeah, I've had very similar situations, especially through I help run a nonprofit that works with people with disabilities and helps them get back outdoors. So we give away grants, and we typically don't give the grant to the person. We give it to whatever equipment they're looking to get. And I've had a lot of people come on and tell me how bad life was, and they needed grant money to do this or that. And I do my due diligence. I check them out on Facebook and check them out on LinkedIn and check them out. And people come to me and say, help me start a business. And I worked, unfortunately, with a lot of people who don't care as much as you do about their well-being or what they say they want and need. And it's frustrating. So I agree. You really have to do a deeper dig than sometimes your heart might tell you, because those initial stories do open up and tear at your heart. But there's a lot of people out there that are only that way on the surface. So do a deeper dig. I think that's important. I'm complete.
Thank you, Mr. Swift. Heather, you seem to be flashing. What do you want to add on that?
I have So that personal thing I was talking about before, I am attached to an individual who shows one side to the world, but then is one other person, a completely different person behind closed doors. So a lot of it, and I mean, and when you deal with somebody like that, there's a lot of gaslighting because you don't know what's real. You're like, wait, but I literally just said this to you, but now you're telling me that that's not what you said. And that can happen a lot in business too. I've also done, and that's how I know, because I've been attached to this person since literally middle school. And you know who they really are, but then they present themselves to the world as a different person. So one of the things is like gray rock method, where you literally do not insert any emotion, any like feeling, no facial expression, nothing when dealing with said individual. And this is also in business too, because if you have somebody in business who, you may have a client, you may have a colleague or an employee where they love to feed off of the drama because that's what it's creating. Is you think they're one person and they act one way, but then in another they act differently, and you're like, but wait. And it makes you second guess, it makes you question, it makes you self-doubt, it makes you doubt in like a whole entire. So gray rock method, short, sweet, to the point. Don't give too much information. I'm one who loves to give information to people. Literally, that's all I do. I'll sit on this app and be like, yes, I know this. Yes, use this. Da, da, da. Like, I love actionable steps through information. And that is one of the things I had to learn. Don't give your information, because you think you're doing good, but then it just backfires and they use it against you. And you're like, what the hell, man? I'm just trying to help. And then they turn it around and they use it against you, and then you feel like shit. So yeah, gray rock method, keep things close to the vest. That's why I don't talk a lot about my business too. I'm making a lot of moves, my guys, and not a lot of people know about it, because I like to keep things close to the chest, because that's, information is power. So I'll leave it right there.
I think, I hear what you're saying, Heather, and I agree in some ways and disagree in others. I think I tend to err the other direction. I look at it this way: I can only control myself, right? I can only control how I behave. I can only control how I deal with things. I cannot control the actions of other people, right? And so if someone chooses to try to take advantage of my kindness, then I know maybe not to be kind to that person again. But it doesn't mean I shouldn't be kind to other people, right? If someone takes advantage of my generosity in sharing, knowledge or information with them, and maybe I'll be less inclined to share knowledge or information with that person in the future. But I try not to let that sway me away from being generous with other people. Because at the end of the day, there's always a few, right? There's always a bad apple. There's always a bad actor. There's always somebody that's going to take advantage of your kindness, your generosity. And I'm always wary of letting that individual discourage me from doing something that I believe is good, broadly, not only for the people that I'm giving and sharing the information with, but also for me. Giving is good for the giver, just as it's good for the receiver, right? So I really love giving to people. I love giving information and sharing with people. I love teaching whenever the opportunity arises. And so, I try not to let, if somebody takes advantage of that spirit of generosity, I can't control that. I can't stop them from doing that, but I try to make sure that it doesn't impact my willingness to continue giving to other people, because at the end of the day, I want to live in a world where people are encouraged to give and not where they're discouraged to give by a few bad actors. right?
Well, I was just talking about that one individual person. Don't give that individual person information anymore. Be expressionless to that specific individual, not a broader sense of people
Yeah.
in general, but that one person that's giving the problem with Joyce.
Gotcha. Then I totally agree. Yeah, if somebody takes advantage of it, then yeah, they've burned that bridge. They've lost they've lost it, right? They've lost the benefit of your generosity for sure. 100% agree. 100% agree.
I like that too, Heather. Because like if you get burned once, you get burned twice, it happens, right? But now if you start to get burned over and over and over and over by the same person, well, I hate to say whose fault is it, but now at that point you are contributing to the problem. You know that person's going to burn you. You know they've shown their true colors. So I try to do my best to steer clear of them in as many ways as I can. Now sometimes you can't, but steer clear. So good tips. Joyce, what do you go?
I was just going to say, Dom, just to that end, if you run into somebody and you start to get like a little bit of a tickle, a little bit of a spidey sense, like, that maybe they're taking advantage of your kindness or generosity, right? Or, taking advantage of you more broadly. I would encourage you to like look for patterns of behavior and look for how they interact with other people. Put yourself in situations where you get to see them interact with other people. I don't know where I got this saying from, but I remember saying this all the way back in like high school. I would say to people, we give ourselves away in everything that we do, right? The way you behave, the actions you take, the things you say, your interactions with other people demonstrably say to the world and show the world who you are, right? We give ourselves away in everything that we do. So watch that person, watch their interactions, pay attention and look for patterns of behavior. They'll tell you and sometimes maybe you'll be able to short circuit it before they really get a chance to take advantage of you. You'll be able to recognize like, oh, this is somebody who's just trying to milk me as a resource, and just trying to take advantage of my generosity, and I should be wary of them. So just something to think about, because we're all inevitably going to come across people like this during the course of our lives, right? So just pay attention to patterns of behavior, and look at what people are doing, because, like I said, we give ourselves away in everything that we do.
Well said, Tom. Thank you. So we are going to keep this ship rolling. Can a ship roll? What a dumb saying. We're going to keep this ship rolling. But who would say we're going to keep this ship floating?
We're going to keep this car floating down the highway.
Joyce, what do you got for us? Something we can learn, something that you went through that maybe we can learn from it that you want to share. It could be anything. It could be that you drove the wrong way and should have used GPS. What is it, Joyce? What do you got for us?
Sorry, haven't been on for a while. Missed you guys last week. I realized this is really the only clubhouse room I do now, so I like having your voices in my head. So you have good information. Congratulations, Tom. I'm sure it was beautiful, and I'm glad I could teach you that little thing about the carousel, my brass rings. And my husband makes a really good fried chicken, just on the fried chicken topic.
You lie. I need to know.
I got him a fryer later for his, he cooks everything. So he does do his fryer later. I got it for his birthday last year, and everybody thought I was getting him like an air fryer. I'm like, oh no, the real thing. So he was frying on the stove and the oil and all of that for a while, but kind of messy. So that's outside check. All right. I learned a long time ago that just because I can do something doesn't mean I should. And I can give a lot of examples, like, I don't know, like Instagram. I am finally accepting the fact that I'm a content creator, and I really do have to learn how to make reels. And I was getting really, really frustrated. And, I'm an attorney. Like, I learned really hard stuff, and learning how to do the Instagram myself, I just didn't make sense to me. So I finally took a good class with the Instagram experts on Instagram, and I feel so much more confident. So that was like a good thing. And the other thing I'm really bad at is selling myself, which comes back to the podcast. I'm actually considering not doing it because I'm having so much trouble getting partners. And a few weeks ago, I was at a cannabis conference in Boston, and I met a woman who was really good at selling and just thinks I am the best thing ever, and was walking me around the floor, selling me like I was some sort of celebrity. And she almost made me cry. I don't know, like, to have someone believe in you that way, I don't know. It makes me cry when I think about it. So I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I do try to do everything myself, just like all of you. So I'm trying to learn. And vulnerability, it's a superpower. And that is all I have to say.
Thank you, Joyce. And I love this idea of partnering with somebody like this lady that is selling you. Maybe, like we all say, we have blind spots, right? Maybe there's something about myself that I don't realize, or maybe there's something about me that I do know isn't my best trait. I wonder if partnering, can you find partners like this lady who could sell you, that believes in you? Hey, maybe that's the perfect partner for you. So that's an interesting spin. And the fried chicken, the fryer, very cool. I suck at making my own fried chicken. Although I had a restaurant, although I am a fried chicken connoisseur, I can make some. Like last night, we had drumsticks. I baked them. I had brined them for a couple of days. They were great, but I just baked them. I'm no good at fried chicken. So, like sometimes I'll go to a restaurant and I'll taste like a pizza or something, and I'll be like, nah. My wife's like, what's wrong? And like, it's that quick. I'm like, and she'll be like, what's wrong? I'm like, it tastes like mine from the restaurant. Like I have this thought in my mind, well, I go somewhere, it should be better than what I used to make at a business that went out of business. I lost $500,000. So sometimes when I walk into the place and the pizza crust tastes the same, or the chicken, I'm like, damn it. Spoiled my evening that quick. All right. So don't let me get sidetracked. That happens from time to time. Jess, steer us in the right direction. Steer us. That would be what I should have said about the ship before. Steer us. Jess, something that you've been through that maybe we can learn a mistake, a miss, a missed shot, whatever it was. What do you got for us?
Wow. First off, good morning, everyone, and congrats, Tom. That's phenomenal. I'm so happy for you. Shoot, everyone has said so much that I can relate to. For me, once you find that person, whether it's in personal life or professional life, but once you find that person, or maybe it may be a group or whatever, don't keep trying to find more. Don't think that you're not worthy of that person. I'm always better at helping others than helping myself. So anyone who knows me knows I say that a lot. So I will just definitely, for me, it's just, I'm 44 years old, and it took me 44 years to realize what the true definition and meaning of caring and friendship is. And that's pretty sad to say for me, because you're 44 years old. That's, because you teach this to your kids. I'm also a grandma, so, you teach this to your kids. But for me, I guess I had it in my mind one way my entire life until I was finally able to take the horse blinds off, finally able to clean the windshield, and it was at full display. That would be me. That's my 2 cents. Thanks.
Jess, thank you. And it looks like you got a new picture as well, so I need some explanation here. What are you holding up? Some kind of flower? What is there?
I'm just buy some flowers.
Okay.
To me, I love flowers. I love greenery. It just helps me. It helps me just kind of ground myself and try and get rid of like a lot of negative energy that may be around me. So it was from a photo shoot I had.
Okay, I'm on the live stream. This is me looking at it close. Okay, cool picture, like it. Then thank you for the message, Jess. Stay the course. You are making a difference out there.
Thanks.
Now, Tom, we're going to go. We got Jamie Sloan and our friend Charlie here, not the smartest guys in the room. Hey, we have we still have, what is it? We have a club here, Tom? Is that what we have? A club?
I believe that is the case. Yes, we have a club. We don't have a house.
Okay. So we have a club. If you want to follow club, or you'll get an additional, you see, we don't ping you too much. So you'll get probably 2 pings a week from us. If you follow the club or whatever, we appreciate you as well for doing that. And then always make sure that you connect with everybody in the room. It's such a great networking tool, Clubhouse. So sometimes people undervalue, like they're like somebody would say to me, "Oh, how much time did you spend on Clubhouse last year? That was completely inefficient." It depends on how you're looking. If you're looking at it as like I was playing games on social media or something, if you play games and you have fun doing it, like my wife's always like messing with some coins or something for, I mean, I think she's on level 50,000 of some game she plays. Makes her happy. But if you're on this app networking and meeting people like Jess and Dr. Tachi and Jamie and Sloan and Joyce and everybody here, whoa, man, that's amazing. And who knows where you build these relationships, and who knows where it could go. Like Dr. Tachi was saying earlier, like you, to a point, like winners surround themselves with winners. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I used to be my dad was a landscaper, and one of the guys that we threw stuff into the chipper, and one of the guys would say, birds of a feather flock together. And that meant that you had to put the brush in the chipper in the right direction. So first day, nobody shows me how to do it. And I put like the thin part of the branch on one way and then the big clumps of the branch on the other way. And he comes over and's like, "What the hell are you doing?" I learned from him, birds of a feather flock together. So just like you got people here that are trying to make a difference, people here that are creators, people here that are out doing things, connect with them and see what you guys can do together. So that's my little, I don't know, what do you call that when somebody gives a public clubhouse address announcement, but we'll call it a public address announcement. So, okay, Jamie, something you learned was there anything, or did you just do everything right from day one? Something you learned from that maybe we could learn from. What do you got for us?
Hi. Oh gosh, that's such an understatement. I think we learn from our mistakes, and that makes us who we are. My big one right now is I learned that, even though your movie gets big, the marketing, if they do marketing in one direction, it can go one way and you can get left at the curb, which is fine. And, I felt so disappointed that I thought, the whole cast was going to travel with said movie. And it may or may not even do that anymore. But that's good because I wasn't going in the right direction. This is how I fixed it, because this is my recent it's been 2 weeks. So this is the last 2 weeks since I saw you guys. I found an agent who's going to be putting me into conventions. I didn't know where to go the right way. So now I found the person to put me into conventions, said horror conventions, voiceover conventions. I'm really hoping mental health conventions. I have a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. I will never regret going to Dalhousie because I never got to actually be a nurse. But that doesn't mean that was a mistake. It was just something that I was meant to have. So here I am trying to go to conventions now. I hope to tell you in a week that next hiccup is just going to be me trying to get my visa in time, and flock together. I can look on here and say, I know most of you, and I really appreciate all of your support. It's been 2 years of networking, just like Dawn said. I did not waste my time on here. I really didn't. And I have a disability, so I have to keep trying to move and stretch, but having my phone At least I carry it around my neck now, and I made it work so that I'm not sitting down all the time. But I can walk and talk to you guys and listen. So everybody said something great. Everyone, Heather, I feel you. I've been in the same situation. I'm on my third marriage, and I found the right guy this time. So it's just about the people that support you. And the gray rock, oh, I wish. I am so not able to do that gray rock very well. So everybody's comments. Oh, and Joyce, I want to do that with you. You need to message me. I would love to do stuff. So please message me. And maybe that's what your hiccup was. You weren't looking in the right place, and ta-da! Well, anyways, for the ones that don't know, I'm Jamie Hill, and I've got voiceover because of Clubhouse. I got 3 more jobs coming up. That would not have happened without Clubhouse. I'm glad everybody's here. If I haven't met you, say hello. I'm not shy. I'm big in advocating for everything. And these guys are only around once a week, so I hope to see you next week. Anyways, this sounds like a commercial. Hey guys, take care though.
Jamie, thanks you for being here. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for the vulnerability. It's eye-opening, and don't stop moving forward, right? Here, setback, and she just finds an agent and moves even further down the road. So it's impressive. Most of these setbacks, like, you don't even get the opportunity unless you put yourself out there. It takes putting yourself out there, and we have setbacks because we put ourselves out there. I have this saying sometimes, is opportunity never knocks when you're home sitting on the couch. Like, it's going to take putting yourself out there, and then all of a sudden these things happen, but they also propel you forward. So good work overall. Good work altogether. Let's see what Sloan has to say. Sloan, what do you got going on? My presence in these spaces is not an indication of agreement with the subject topic opinion, especially if they're dumb or ignorant. Okay, I'm reading your bio. There you go. How you doing today? What do you have for us?
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me up. One of my favorite spaces also. I'm going to say something that I practice, and it's kind of like my superpower. I feel like I don't have enough support to bounce ideas off of, or like you can kind of drain people because I just get a lot of ideas. So, and sometimes when I'm trying to make a decision on going left or right, or do I go forward or do I remain still, I'm not always sure what to do. I realized one of the things I've done for about, 20 years is I look for my answers in my sleep. And I've kind of kept it to myself, but there is some data about how your brain solves some of your problems as you rest. And I've really tapped into that for myself because I live alone, my family's far, all that sort of thing. So I guess I would suggest that it's something that everyone can do. And what I do is if I have a problem, I go ahead and think about it for a minute. Then I go into a peaceful place before I go to sleep the night before. And I look for the answer as I'm sleeping, as I'm resting, for my brain to do the work for me. And here's the important part. Sometimes I get the answer in a dream, and sometimes I just get the answer solved or the direction to take. But the key is not jumping out of bed super fast. You can't jump up and start your day. You have to kind of wake up slowly, give yourself a couple of minutes to meditate on what was going on in my mind as I rested. And you look for the answer from within. You look for the answer inside your own heart or your own mind. So that has really helped me a lot in life as far as problem solving. So I love depending and asking people for help, though. I don't have a problem with that. I'm like, what do you think? Because I think everybody's smarter than me. But that is something that I've done. I think it's a practice I began because I was the only child. And so you don't have someone next to you to kind of bounce things off of, and it became a habit. So that's what I'm going to suggest to everybody. If you have a little problem, maybe kind of go to sleep with it, not stress about it, and then wake up slowly and see if your mind has given you the answer, your brain or your heart has given you the answer. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sloan. So how, when we got all these things on our mind, you got any tips for how we can fall asleep so my heart's not racing at 2 a.m. or something like that?
I didn't hear the last part. So that your heart's not.
Yeah. So let's say I got all these things on my mind and I'm
Mhm.
okay, I'm going to sleep on this. I'm going to sleep on it, but I'm too excited or wound up to fall asleep.
Oh, that's a totally different issue. I don't know how to help people fall asleep.
Uh,
I fall asleep as soon as I hit a pillow. Like I'm one of those people. I'm sorry, I don't know any tips
usually
on.
I do too, but I'm just saying if I was like, hey, this certain subject, I'm going to fall asleep on it. I just wondered if that might cause me to stay up.
Oh, yeah, that could be a possibility for some. So yeah, the practice is to say, this is what I may say to myself, not that I do that anymore, but you probably could say to yourself, to this is the answer that I need for tonight. And if you believe in God, that's what, this is the answer. I need an answer on this topic. I may say it, I may not get an answer for a few days, but I believe the brain and or for me, God also gives me that answer. But no problems really keep me up. So I think it's really a matter of, even if you have to visualize handing over the problem to, I don't know, into a basket or into someone else's hands, just visualizing it. I mean, you really do have to let it go. You've got to announce it and then I say, okay, it'll come when it'll come.
Thank you. We go on. Brian, you clicked and then we'll go to Tom. Go on.
Yeah, no, I agree. As you know, Dom, because you've gotten crazy emails from me all through the night, falling asleep has always been difficult. And much like Sloan, I believe I've finally found that, discussing the problem in my mind and going back to my faith and saying, you know what, fall asleep and this will work out. The answer will come to you, and kind of having that conversation. And as she said, letting it go, being okay, not having the answer. It's like being comfortable, being uncomfortable. We have to learn that in business, especially as entrepreneurs, right? We have to learn how to be comfortably uncomfortable. Same thing with an issue or a problem. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable that you don't have the answer this second, but believe in your heart that whether it's through faith or prayer or whatever that is, that it will come to you. It's just not going to come to you tonight. And that has kind of helped me get, fall asleep better and strengthen my faith to believe there's something out there beyond us that sometimes wants us to have answers now, sometimes later, and sometimes there are no answers. So I agree. I'm complete.
Thanks, Swifty. Go on, Tom.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share something that I heard actually earlier this morning, I believe, and that is what this person was calling the 5-minute rule. And what they would do was when they were upset about something or something happened to them that made them upset, they would literally set a timer for 5 minutes, and they would allow themselves to be upset about that thing that they had no control over until the timer went off. And when the timer went off, it was time to get over it, right? It was time to move past it. It was time to accept that there was nothing they could do to change it. They had felt bad about it, and now it was time to move on to something more productive, something that they could change. And what they could change, what they had power over, if you didn't have power over the circumstances, what they did have power over was how they felt, right? How they dealt with the thing that had happened to them. In this particular case, it was a guy who was talking about he had been in a terrible accident, was hit head on at like 70 plus miles an hour by a drunk driver, was in a coma. The doctors thought he was never going to walk again. Really severe kind of, medical repercussions from this accident. And they actually ended up being concerned for his mental health because he was so upbeat. They thought he was in denial about sort of the facts of the circumstances of the extent of his injuries and the impact that this was going to have on the rest of his life. And his response was, no, I used this 5-minute rule. And the reason I'm happy is because I have decided that I don't want to be a victim of these circumstances, that I want to be, positive and productive in my life. And so that's what I'm going to be. And so he would set a timer for 5 minutes. And after that 5-minute timer went off, it was time to move on and be productive and be positive and control what he could control, right? Control the controllables, control what he could control. What he could control was how he dealt with something. So maybe that's something to do if you're feeling stressed out about something, and it's keeping you up at night, maybe try setting a 5-minute timer. Let yourself be upset, like run through it for 5 minutes. Just live in that emotion for 5 minutes. And then when that timer goes off, know that it's time to put that away, put that emotion away, put that aside and move forward with what you can control, which is how you deal with that moving forward. So yeah, I don't know, just something I heard this morning that I wanted to share. And I thought maybe could be useful in a case like that to answer your question, Dom. What do you do if it's keeping you up at night? Maybe it's as simple as setting a 5-minute timer, letting yourself live in that for 5 minutes and then deciding to move on afterwards.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. I've heard that some people say, like, is it going to affect you in 5 years? Is it going to affect you in 5 months? Is it going to affect you in 5 days, 5 minutes? And now you could add the 5-minute timer right to that. I had a friend that had one of the rarest forms of cancer. They actually wrote a documentary about him. Or filmed on, I think it was called 1 in a Million or something like that. But this form of cancer was like 1 in 100 million, and he battled it for like 12 years, and would beat it, it would come back, would beat it, it would come back. But other people that had, he would talk about being in sometimes when he'd be getting treatment or getting his chemo, getting the other treatments, that some people that were very positive, and they just take it for what it's worth. This is my friend Matt saying this, that some people that weren't in the condition he was, that were so doomsdayish, it was over. It was that they'd last 3 months, 2 months. And then here was this guy with the rarest form that was so positive about, what he was going through and out trying to make a difference. He was giving therapy dogs to people and things like that, all while he was going through this. And they actually believed, that positivity played a factor in it. So I believe what you're saying there, Tom. So
there are studies on that concur with that your attitude and what that positive attitude releases chemically in your body and whatnot can really make a huge difference, not just in your day but in your life. So smiling, laughing, being happy, grounding out with nature, those things that we take time for, or that sometimes we need to focus on, or the people you surround yourself with, if they bring those things into your life, man, that's definitely life enhancing. So I think I'd love to see the documentary.
Hey, I'll send it over to you. Hey, not this one of these guys in the room. I just want to say real quick, thank you for being here, everybody, today. And thanks for, we go a lot of different places. So thanks for letting us talk a little positivity and motivation as well. So we got Gavin and Charlie here. Okay, Gavin, let's see. I don't think I met Gavin before. So I'm going to read his profile here. That's fine. Okay, Gavin, Michael Booth. No related to John Wilkes Booth. Or maybe he is. I don't know. Filmmaker. Now filming. Sydney and Sean, starring Janelle Parrish. It says, watch my film Last Call on Peacock and Prime and Tubi. This kind of ambitious filmmaker is rare. I'm not a good reader, am I? Huh. Okay, Gavin, man, we're talking about, really the room today was about mistakes you made along the ways, falls, slips. Doesn't have to be, some people, they tiptoe around the word failure, but you grew from it. What's something you had going on at some point? Maybe it was when you were just starting out before you had that film on all those stations. Maybe it was, what could it be? Something that you went through that maybe we could learn from. What do you got, my friend?
Oh man, this is my favorite topic. More artists need to sort of drop the pretension and the mystery and just discuss their failures. Because how do you learn to paint if not by failing over and over until you get good at it? No, I discuss this all the time. And one of my favorite things about going to film festivals is sitting around late at night with the other filmmakers when everybody just sort of, shares their war stories and shows their scars. And like, you just kind of, hindsight is, it's always painful to fail in the moment, but you just got to get comfortable with failure. I don't follow a lot of sports, I don't play sports, but like the sports analogies are always the best. Like if your team gets the crap kicked out of them and you lose the Super Bowl, you don't get the ring that year. Well, guess what? You wake up and just train harder and try to go back at it. And sometimes artists seem to think of it a different way of like, oh, my movie wasn't well received, or oh, this music video didn't turn out the way I thought it would, or didn't have the budget, or didn't have this or this. It's just like they sort of live in those mistakes versus just being like, no, that's how you learn to just improve and move on from that. So for me, it's, I use the expression all the time, here's my advice, and then pause, not that you'll take it. Because I think that the mistake that most artists make, myself included, early in their careers, you generally go out and seek advice from people who are doing the thing that you want to do. And most people are very willing to like take a few minutes or reply to an email and give you advice. But when you're young and starting out, the advice they give you is everything they've been through. They're very honest, and it's crushing to read because it feels impossible. It feels too difficult. And when you're young and naive, you generally say, oh, I'm smarter than that. I can do it faster than that. I've got a cheaper, better way to do it than those people. And then you kind of fumble around for a few years or maybe longer, only to realize like, oh man, that advice they gave me, I should have just taken it. They were being very blunt and honest, and I just didn't want to hear it. I wanted an easy answer. I wanted a comforting answer about how to do this impossible thing of becoming a filmmaker or an actor. And I tried to circumvent that advice, only to come back around a few years later and realize that advice was solid. So I think, the greatest mistake a lot of artists make is not listening to the advice that is being given to them by people who have been there and done that already.
Truth, man, and well said. Why bash your head up against a wall when somebody has already done it and says that's not the right way? But on the other hand, I'm sure in this room we've all been there where we take that path on our own, where we, like you said, we could do it quicker, we could do it faster, we could do it cheaper. I guess, that path is laid with failure, huh? So, well, we're just getting ready to talk to Charlie, and there he goes. Hey, I wanted to say, we got Simphy down there, Holly, Hoot. My friend Hoot, one day I was in his room, and this is what I want to tell you about Clubhouse. I was in a room he was doing, and we were talking about Reels and TikToks and stuff like that, and YouTube Shorts. And Hoot says, how come every video you've ever done isn't a short? And like, I'm in the room right now, and I'm thinking, like, in his room, I was like, well, why isn't it? With right now, with that YouTube Shorts blowing up and things like that, you have all this content already created. Why haven't you put it in the shorts? So Hoot, I left your room that day. I'm like instantly he's talking, and it hit me like that. And I'm like, sorry, Hoot, I'm leaving your room. And I started sharing these things in, like just redoing them into shorts. Same video I already had. And I see that some get their 10 views, 20 views, whatever. But then I see some of repurposed stuff have like thousands and thousands of views. And it was all, not that it matters, but it was content that I already had. I repurposed it. We talk about repurposing content a lot. I repurposed it, put it somewhere new, put it somewhere where people were consuming content. And there they found these other videos, and maybe they'll find some of my other stuff because of it. So Hoot, props to you, man, for the suggestion. And I would say to anybody, why aren't they? Why haven't you just took the time and uploaded them to the other space? So that's all I got. This is not the smartest guys in the room. We got our married man, Tom, now. If you want to take us out, add any to what you haven't said or anybody, Tom, but do your thing, man.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, thanks everybody for being here this week. Really appreciate it. Missed doing this room last week with Dom while he was chasing basketball players around, chasing NCAA athletes around during March Madness, and while I was busy getting ready to get hitched and ride a carousel on Friday. So missed this space last week. Thanks everybody for being here. Really glad to see you guys. I think we had a good conversation this week. As always, we meander. But like I often say, it's one of my favorite things about this space is that we let the conversation go where it needs to go. And we don't try to overproduce, is the term I would often use. But we don't try to overproduce it, right? We don't oversteer, we don't overcorrect. If the conversation flows in a direction, then we let it flow in that direction, right? No sense trying to dam the river. To what Gavin was just talking about, I think, advice is only valuable if you're ready to hear it, right? Somebody can give you nuggets of wisdom till they're blue in the face, but if you're not ready to hear it, if you're not ready to accept it, and to take it on board and act on it, then ultimately it's going to fall on deaf ears, I think. So advice is only as good as you are at listening to it, right? At taking it on board. But yeah, I think we had a great conversation today. Dom was stroking my ego a little bit, telling me I was on fire. For sure, I'm gonna go back and pull out that little clip about asking for help as a power move, because I do believe that. I do believe that vulnerability is strength, and we all need help. So don't be afraid to ask for it, and also don't overlook how good it is for you to give help also. So look for opportunities to help other people, to educate, to teach, to mentor, to guide younger folks. I cannot stress how valuable it is. And just as a very, very quick example, there's a local organization near me that is doing some internship programs, paid internship programs for people looking to get into the film industry, looking to get into production more broadly, I should say, not specifically film, but production more broadly. And I reached out to them and I hired a couple of their former apprentices. They're calling it an apprenticeship program. So I hired a couple of their former apprentices to work on a shoot with me recently. I then hired a couple of them again for another shoot I had more recently. And I got to tell you, hiring those kids and having them come on to set with me and having them or giving myself the opportunity to teach them was incredibly rewarding. They got a lot out of it. They appreciated having the chance to work with somebody who's got 22 years in the industry like I do. But also I really valued the opportunity of getting to work with them, of getting to see production through their eyes, and getting to see the excitement on their faces, something that doing shoots, or the kind of shoots that had become rote to me because I've done them so many times before, getting to do them with somebody young and new and excited made me excited again. And so it was incredibly valuable for me. So don't underestimate the value of giving help to others. It can really, really change the way you see the work that you do when you have the opportunity to provide some mentorship to younger folks in your industry and in your career path. So, don't skip on that. So anyway, I'll leave you guys with that this week. Thanks again so much for being here as always. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. This room would not exist if it wasn't for all of you. So thank you for being here. And we look forward to seeing you next week, Wednesday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. And can't wait. We'll see you guys then. We'll have another great conversation and talk about all kinds of weird stuff. And surround ourselves with smarter people, because Dom and I are definitely not the smartest guys in the room. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.